What is up, guys? What is going on? Happy Halloween, by the way. I didn't say that in my previous video. That's because I was recording it last night and I forgot to post it because I got lazy. And then I had to post it this morning, so I forgot to say Happy Halloween. But Happy Halloween. So I can go trick or treating, but that's not fun. But whatever. So we're gonna start out with our states that we're not going to really talk about the polls. And by the way, I didn't even introduce this video. This is a video talking about the polling data. So we're actually going to talk about polls a bit today. I know I'm releasing my Senate petition. I'll actually triple upload today because I need to get some stuff out. We'll do a presidential election based solely on polls. Then we're going to do a presidential election based on if the polls are as wrong as they were in 2016. So that'll be interesting. So, starting off with our states that we're not going to talk about. Actually, we'll talk about Oregon. So we're not going to talk about any of these northeastern states. They're not really polled that much, if I'm being quite honest. And then Maine's 1st District, we're not going to talk about. So we're just going to start with Oregon. I don't think that that RealClearPolitics has actually weighted Oregon. We're going to do RealClearPolitics, and if they don't weight Oregon, then our backup plan is going to be 538. So they actually use stuff. So Oregon, actually, I'm right. It's actually safe. So never mind Oregon. And then Maine at large. Hopefully they actually weighted that one. Maine, Trump versus Biden. Okay, there are a lot of polls. They just don't seem to want to weight it. But because that's annoying, because RealClearPolitics is a bit better than 538 is at weighting it. So, alright, so there we go. So now we're going to fill out, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. So now we're going to fill out the Trump states that we're not really going to talk about. Utah and Montana we're actually going to talk about because the polls in these states have been a little funky. And then also Nebraska is, I think that's the 3rd district. No, it's the 1st district. I always get those two mixed up. And then Oklahoma, Arkansas, there was another funky poll out of there. Oklahoma, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia are states that we're going to characterize as safe for Donald Trump. So, as you can tell, a lot of the normal Trump states aren't safe for him because of the polls being funky there, but whatever. We're going to start with the state of Utah, and I don't believe that RealClearPolitics wants to weight Utah, or from what I've seen, Trump versus Biden, because they're better at this than 538, but we'll go to 538 because they weight every single state. And 538 put Trump ahead by 10% in Utah. There was a brief period, I think, in like May or June that it was like only 5% for Trump. Maybe I was wrong, but Utah, likely. Now going over to the state of Montana, which I don't think that RealClearPolitics has weighted Montana because they only like to weight the swing states, but they didn't weight Montana. So now we're going to go over to 538, see the Montana polling data, and Donald Trump is only ahead by 5%. That's basically a lean margin, or it's technically likely, but that's fascinating because in March he was supposed to win by 21 points, but now he's down to 5%. And this isn't just like, oh, there's one outlier. No, there's been a lot of polls in Montana. Just look at these few polls, and Trump's barely at 50%. Now in 2016, he won the state by over 20%. So the fact that he's only winning by 5 in Montana is a really good sign for Steve Bullock. So. Louisiana, I also believe, is probably going to be likely according to the polling aggregate. Louisiana, Trump versus Biden. They didn't weight it, so we're gonna have to see 538 what they have to say. And all right, I was actually wrong. In August it was actually likely, but it's safe. And then Alabama, probably they haven't done anything. Mississippi. I know that 538 I know the RealClearPolitics hasn't weighted Mississippi, so we're not going to waste our time there. And Mississippi actually is safe, which is surprising. I was thinking it would be more like a 9-10 point margin for Donald Trump, but that's not the case. So Arkansas is another one. There was one funky poll out of there that had Trump only ahead by 3. Yeah, it was like like this. Let's go dig deeper in these. Okay, that's it. It was June 14th, but Trump only ahead by. But as soon as these polls started coming out, then you start to see that it actually makes sense because there was like 1, 2, 3 polls from the stretch of June to the end of September, and it was like really close. But yeah, so as of right now, it is safe, which makes a lot of sense. Arkansas is not competitive. Missouri, and then Indiana is another state that we're going to look at. briefly, and I know that 538 actually did weight this, and it's actually a likely margin. It's like 9% or something like that. Yeah, it's 9%. So Indiana they have as likely. So we've essentially done all the Oh yeah, in Nebraska is what is that? That's the first district. So Nebraska's first district. We're gonna have to take a look at that. I may be wrong. I'm kind of going off a gut feel here, but Nebraska's first district, Trump is ahead by. They didn't win. Wait, so the average is because the second is Biden is up by like 6. Yeah, so okay, so the average would technically just be a lean or actually a tilt margin, which is really weird. So, it's only one poll. It's from Strategies 360, which I don't really trust, but whatever. This is according to the polls. This is not my prediction. So yeah. So now we're going to go to our likely Democratic states, starting with New Mexico, and see what the polls have to say about it. So I'm pretty sure that they haven't weighted New Mexico, because why would they? Like, real clear politics. I wish they weighted every state, because they're pretty good at it. People say that that they have a right-leaning bias. I mean, that is sort of true, because they weight Rasmussen more than they weight the New York Times, or they essentially give it more power over the average. But still, they were more accurate than 538 in 2016. Although, to be fair, 538 was better in 2018. But it's good to look at both. Now, Colorado is another one. I actually think that Real Clear Politics might have actually weighted Colorado. Or did I spell Colorado wrong? Trump versus Biden. Okay, so the average is Biden is up by 14%, which would make it safe. And I actually think Colorado will vote to the left of New Mexico by around 1 to 2%. It won't be like Colorado. Biden's not going to Colorado by 20, but he'll win it by like I think 11, and he's going to win New Mexico by like 9 or 8 or 9 rather. So yeah, those are likely states for the Democrats. Virginia, we're also going to take a look at. They might have actually weighted Virginia, which would be a miracle. No, they didn't. So Virginia, according to 538, puts Biden ahead by, let's see how much, by 11.4%. So that makes it a likely margin. He was up by, I think, 13. Yeah, he was up by 13. But, nope, West Virginia is not blue. So our map's starting to come together. We're seeing, some of these states I disagree with. Like, I don't think that Montana will be that competitive. I don't think Indiana is likely. But, yeah. So now we're going to also go over to our likely Trump states, starting with the state of Alaska. See what they have to say about Alaska. They haven't weighted Alaska. 538 though, they did their job, and at one point I think he was only ahead by like 4. Yeah, so he's actually gaining ground in Alaska, and the polls are actually tightening up a little bit. Like it's not enough to be tight like 2016, where it's like, oh my gosh, it's within the margin of error, but it is something to note. Texas, here we go. Here the polls actually they should be waiting. Tell me that they weighted Texas. Yeah, they weighted Texas, thank God. Okay. So the aggregate is Trump is ahead by 2%. So that is a lean margin. So Texas, lean Republican, which I think that makes sense. I mean, I characterize Texas as likely Republican, but according to 538 or to Real Clear Politics rather, which is a bit more right leaning, Texas is lean Republican. We also have to remember the fact that the polls in Texas underestimate Democrats. They underestimated Hillary Clinton by 3 in 2016, which is really something to watch. But anyways, I don't think Texas is going to flip. I'm not one of those people. But yeah, so now we're going to go over to the state of Missouri. Let's see Missouri. What am I thinking? They haven't weighted Missouri. The average puts Trump ahead by 6%, which I think is very, very generous to Joe Biden. I don't think that, like in the best case scenario, I think that's what he'd lose it by. But, that's what the polls say. So South Carolina is another one they probably haven't weighted. South Carolina, the average puts Trump ahead by around 8%. So we're going to characterize South Carolina as likely a Republican. So these are essentially our battleground states that we have left. I think that Texas would count as a battleground state, but the rest of these states we've already filled out are not competitive. So this is no surprise. But so far, the polls are not wacky. They're not far off. I mean, in June or July, you would have seen Texas tilting towards Biden. You would have seen Arkansas being tilt Trump. You would have seen Louisiana being lean Trump. You would have seen Indiana being a toss-up. So, it's the polls start to make sense as the election progresses. Or they make more sense as the election progresses, rather. So, in Nevada, we'll do our lean Democratic states. Nevada, they definitely have weighted Nevada. Alright, so the average is Biden plus 4. Remember, the polls in Nevada actually underestimate Democrats usually, but according to the polls, about a lean Democrat. That makes perfect sense to me. That's my characterization. I think it'd be more like 4.5 to 4.7% margin of victory. But, that makes sense. And, as I mentioned, the polls underestimate Democrats. Maybe that's what's going on here. Now, in Arizona, Trump is ahead in Arizona. That is very, very surprising. Trump, and I think it was this one Trafalgar poll. Yeah, so Rasmussen and Trafalgar. But we're going to actually look at 538 to see what the polls say about Arizona, because I'm pretty sure it's a different. So, yeah, I'll put Arizona in the tilt Biden column, just because that is shocking that Trump is now ahead in Arizona for the first time during this election campaign. And like Biden was ahead by what, 5%. So yeah, and this is going to change back to Biden, but wow, that's just something to watch. And again, the polls in Arizona underestimate Democrats as they do in the Sun Belt area, but it's still very interesting. So yeah, now we're going to move on to the state of what's another lean? Minnesota, the Rust Belt, basically. Now Minnesota, they probably weighted that. Yeah. So Biden's ahead by a lean margin. That makes sense to me. I think that's basically the amount he's going to win it by. So yeah. Now going over to the state of Wisconsin, Biden is ahead by something like 6%. Yeah. So Wisconsin likely, which is I don't really think Wisconsin is going to vote to the right to the left of Minnesota. I think it'll vote to the right of Minnesota, but this is just this is the polls prediction, not my prediction, and this is subject to change a little bit before the election. Now, in Michigan, this makes sense to me. Biden ahead by a likely margin, and again, I think it's being taken down by that one Trafalgar poll. Trafalgar is a Republican internal poll. They got 2016 right, but I think that was more of a fluke, if I'm being completely honest. But hey, it's important that we look at what everyone's saying, not just cherry picking polls. So Pennsylvania. That better be a battlegrounds. I was like, how's Pennsylvania not a bet? So Pennsylvania, the polls are actually narrowing up a little bit there, but it's essentially, it's Biden has held the lead. It's been essentially the same. It's a little better than Hillary Clinton's lead in 2016, but according to the polls, Biden's now over the top. And the early voting data looks good for the Democrats in Pennsylvania. I think Pennsylvania is at this point probably locked up for Joe Biden. So yeah. Now New Hampshire is another lean Democratic state. Let's see what in the polls in 2016. New Hampshire was actually the best state for polls. They nailed it. They had Clinton only had by 0.3. They don't want to wait that. They had Clinton only had by 0.3, and then she won it by 0.3. So maybe it was just good luck for them. But the polls in New Hampshire have it as basically a safe state, but likely is the characterization. So we've done our lean Democratic states. Biden's up to 289 electoral votes. Now we're going to go over to the state of Iowa. So in Iowa, as you can see, let's take a look at Iowa, and I don't think they weighted the polls here for whatever reason. Or no, they actually did. So the average puts Trump behind by actually 1.2%. That's pretty funny because I don't think that Iowa is going to go blue. Although I do get the occasional comment on Iowa going blue. I live in Iowa and it's going to go blue. It's interesting. But the average, because when I see like a state that, like Arizona, I did the same thing. I said, okay, well, RCP puts Trump ahead by 0.4%. Let's go to 538, and Biden's up by 4%. So same thing for Iowa. So in this case, Iowa, they actually RCP is actually more generous to the Democrats, but either way, it's still a tilt state. And then Ohio, let's see what Ohio looks like. I think the average, Biden was ahead by 4% at one point. Yeah, he was ahead by but since then, it is a tie. So we're going to have to go with our tiebreaker, 538. And Trump's ahead by tilt margin. So, yeah, tilt margin. Now we're going to go over to the state of Georgia, which is our last leading Republican state. They better avoid Georgia. And again, I don't think that the polls in Georgia are going to be accurate. They're having it as a pure toss-up, or Biden's up by, he actually is surging in the polls in Georgia, which is interesting. Hopefully for him, that trend continues. But Georgia, tilt Democratic. So we got, I also forgot to do Nebraska's 2nd congressional district. Hopefully they weighted that. Nebraska 2nd congressional district 2. There's only one poll, but I know that RC, because we checked this earlier, they have Biden ahead by a likely mark. So Florida, North Carolina, Maine 2nd district. We'll go with the blue states first. Florida, North Carolina. First up is Florida. The average puts Biden ahead. And Trump actually overtook him for like a few hours here, but since then it is going back to Biden. Biden is now up by a tilt margin, which makes sense to me. And the polls in Florida were pretty accurate. I think they had Trump ahead by like 0.5. He won it by 1%. So they underestimate Republicans by a tad bit, but it's still makes perfect sense. Now North Carolina, same thing. Polls are very accurate there. Let's see what the polls have to say about North Carolina. Biden is ahead by actually the same margin as Donald Trump, which is really interesting. But Florida goes to Joe Biden, according to the polling data, which is weird because I don't really think that Arizona is going to vote the same way that Florida and North Carolina do. I think Arizona is going to vote 2 or 3 points to the left of both those states, but whatever. This is what the polls say, not me, and I have to realize that. So Maine, 2nd Congressional District, please tell me that they weighted it. They didn't want to weight it. Okay. Maine, we're going to have to go up to Maine and then find the 2nd Congressional District on that little bar tab thingy. Maine. Where's Maine? There we go. Don't know why that took me so long. But 2nd Congressional District, Biden is ahead by a lean margin. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. There we have it. That's the polling map. And now I'm going to update this. We're like 3 days away from the election. We have, I don't have a ton of time on my hands because hopefully I can do the live stream. I'll have to let you guys know later today or Sunday. So hopefully I can do the live stream. But yeah. So thanks for watching the video, guys. Like, subscribe. I appreciate all the help, guys. Really, it means so much to me that I can just sit here like a complete nerd, talk about elections, and get all the support from you guys. So it is incredible. Comment down below. I'll do my best to reply to productive comments. Now, obviously, I know I haven't been great at replying as of late. That's A, because I'm a little busy, B, because my notifications get super clogged up. But keep commenting, and I will reply to as many comments as I can. So thanks for watching, guys. Leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already. Peace.